on to a children's writer who's really near and dear to my heart, Mr. Jan Souci and the Amazing Ghost Detectives. All right, characters set up. It all started one morning. Someone had broken into the clubhouse and made a big mess. It was odd because the door was still locked and the window was shut from the inside. "How did someone get the combination to our lock?" asked my older brother Bobby. No one had any idea. Billy came up with a way to catch the mess maker. He tied some string to the clubhouse door and ran it across the backyard and into my brother's bedroom window, and he wrapped it around the trash can that he had set on top of Bobby's desk and tied it in a knot. "If anyone opens the clubhouse door, this can will hit the floor and wake you up," said Billy. We all agreed he was a genius. When Bobby awoke the next morning, the trash can was still on his desk. But when we unlocked the clubhouse door, we found an even bigger mess. "How could this happen?" asked Andy. "I think I know," said Craig. "I'll bet it was a ghost. They can go right through walls." "I don't think there's one around here," I said, shaking my head. "Oh, yes, there is," replied Craig. "That night, when it was so windy, I heard a noise outside my bedroom window, and when I looked, a ghost flew right by." My younger brother Mike picked up some torn wrappers. "The ghost found our candy bars and ate them up," he said. "I didn't think they ate anything." "We gotta get rid of that ghost," I said. "I'm tired of cleaning up the clubhouse." "But how do we do that?" asked Billy. "We don't know a thing about ghosts." "I know. I'll get Allison," said Bobby. "She did a big report on ghosts and got the best grade in the class. She lives just around the corner." "Are you friends with her?" asked Billy. "Well, sort of," said Bobby. "She asked me to help when she did her report." In the afternoon, Bobby brought Allison to the clubhouse. We found out that not only did she do that report, but her older sister read ghost stories all the time and told her everything. "I said she was an expert," said Bobby. And then we told her about the ghost in our neighborhood. "Ghosts are serious business," she warned us. "They're hard to find and double hard to clear out." "We'll do whatever we have to," I said. "We want that thing out of here." Allison agreed to help us. We became the Amazing Ghost Detectives and made the clubhouse our headquarters. We needed to know what we were up against, so it was my job to draw a picture of the ghost. "What did you see out your window the other night?" Sorry, this is Souci's voice. "What did you see out your window the other night?" I asked Craig. "I don't remember much," he said. "It was kind of blurry and was flying fast." But then Allison told me what she learned for her report and from her sister, and soon everyone else jumped in and added something they knew about ghosts. When I finished the drawing, we all saw how horrible our ghosts looked. "Some ghosts are harmless," said Allison, "but I can tell this one isn't." "So, if we find this ghost, what do we do?" asked Mike nervously. "My sister says that in a lot of the ghost stories she reads, dogs can see ghosts, and they're not afraid of them," said Allison. "When we find it, Molly can chase it away." We all agreed this was a great idea and petted Molly for her bravery. To track down the ghost, we needed clues. We split up and covered the neighborhood. Bobby and Allison found that Mr. Turnipseed's bulldog Henry had barked for no reason on Monday. Melissa and her sister Ashley showed Billy and Andy their sidewalk. Tuesday, it had been marked with mysterious signs. Professor Stern told Mike and Craig that his television set had shut off by itself on Wednesday and smelled like burning rubber. And Mrs. Gray told Molly and me that she had found strange holes in all her flower beds on Thursday.
Shows you all the clues.
Back at the clubhouse, I drew a map of our block. "Look, there's a pattern to where and when the ghost is making trouble," I said. Sure enough, the ghost was on its way to Andy's house next. "Oh no," he moaned. "My parents are gone for a few days and only my grandmother is staying with us." We all agreed to meet at Andy's house after dinner. If the ghost showed up, we would be ready. At Andy's house that evening, we could see that his grandmother was alone. And while we were looking for hiding places, Molly started barking. "Look!" yelled Mike. "The ghost flew into the basement!" "Oh, what will my poor grandmother do?" cried Andy. We climbed through the window and started searching for the ghost. It didn't take long to find it hiding in the shadows. "It's yelled Allison. Head for the stairs! We raced up the stairs, burst into the kitchen pantry, and slammed the door shut. I told you this ghost wasn't harmless, whispered Allison. We listened for screams, but didn't hear any. We cracked open the door and only saw Andy's grandmother. There was no trace of the ghost. Whew, sighed Andy. We didn't catch the ghost this time, but at least my grandmother's okay. But the good news didn't last long. Billy unfolded the map and said to my brothers and me, "Your house is next." We met at the clubhouse the next day to figure out how to get rid of the ghost. Well, maybe we could scare it away, said Bobby. That's it, said Allison. I read that there are places in the world where people paint their faces scary to chase ghosts away. We could do the same thing. We all agreed this was worth a try. That night, we made our faces look terrifying with paint. We put plastic horns on Molly, and then we hid outside our house and waited for the ghost to show up. Suddenly, in the clubhouse, something crashed. Molly scrambled to the door and shoved it open. She started barking loudly, but it was too dark for us to see. She ran around inside and then raced back out the door. Molly's got the ghost on the run, yelled Bobby. Screaming and howling, we followed after brave Molly. We chased the ghost down the street. We leaped over Mrs. Apple's hedge, hollering as we raced across her lawn. Lights went on and our neighbors came out to see what all the commotion was about. Hey, shouted old Mr. Crenshaw, stop all that racket! But we didn't pay any attention to him. We kept following Molly, who was on the trail of the ghost. 3 blocks away, we caught up with Molly. She had stopped barking, and the ghost was nowhere in sight. Good job, Molly, I said, petting her. She turned out to be a great ghost chaser, said Allison. Everyone took turns praising Molly for being so courageous. We were sure that we had chased the ghost right out of our neighborhood once and for all. A week later, the ghost still hadn't returned, so there was no more need for the amazing ghost detectives. And then Arthur Gazinski's mother found out he was allergic to bird feathers and made him give up all his homing pigeons. And that's how we became the Mighty Pigeon Club. Which I just so happen to have right here. Just let it roll. On Saturday afternoon, we met at the clubhouse. We could see Arthur Gazinski's pigeons flying high in the sky. The birds dove and tumbled and rolled. Oh, it would be so cool if we were pigeons, said my older brother Bobby. It would be like riding a roller coaster. You never have to get off, said Allison. Yeah, said my younger brother Mike. Pigeons have it made. Arthur was one of the presenters at the next school assembly, and he gave a talk about homing pigeons. He showed lots of pictures and held up a pigeon he had made out of modeling clay. Pigeons are war heroes. They deliver messages during battles and are used in sea rescues, said Arthur. But the best thing is that they can find their way home from hundreds of miles away. After Arthur's talk, we started going over at his house after school. He liked to watch his pigeons do their tricks, and then he'd time how fast they flew. One day, Arthur didn't show up at school. On our way home, we stopped by his house. His mother opened the door. Arthur feels terrible, she said. We just found out that he is allergic to bird feathers. I hope he gets better real soon, I said. Would you kids be interested in Arthur's birds? We have to find a new home for them. We couldn't believe what we were hearing. Sure, we'll take them, said Bobby. We were so happy we danced all the way home. With some chicken wire and some scrap wood, we turned the clubhouse into a pigeon coop. And the next day we filled it with pigeons and became the Mighty Pigeon Club.
Why do we always have to do a club?
Soon, Mom got a phone call from our neighbor, Mrs. Crenshaw. What is all that strange noise coming from your backyard? She wanted to know. We were called in to explain why the clubhouse was full of pigeons. Bobby's speech about how pigeons save lives and are war heroes did not impress Mom and Dad, so he tried to convince them another way. Please, 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 he begged. You'll never even know they're here. We promise. Oh, come on, please, let us keep them. Okay, Mom said, as long as you take excellent care of them. We'll be watching you closely, said Dad. To make sure the pigeons would return after we let them fly, Arthur told us to keep them in the clubhouse for 10 days. So we just imagined what we would do with them. There must be all kinds of contests we could enter them in, said Allison. I'll bet we win huge trophies, said Bobby. Oh, wait, sorry, Bobby's voice. I'll bet we win huge trophies, said Bobby. And cash prizes, too, said Mike. But after just a few days, we discovered a big problem. Quick, said Craig. We've got to get our stuff out of the clubhouse. The pigeons are pooping on everything. How can a few birds make such a big mess? Asked Andy. They're pooping machines. Somebody can be the official clubhouse cleaner, said Bobby. And whoever it is won't have to pay club dues. There were no takers. Okay, said Bobby. Then we'll all take turns. Youngest goes first and oldest goes last. Everyone thought this was a good idea except for Mike, who was the youngest. We voted, and he lost. So that afternoon, Mike loaded up a shopping bag with pigeon poop. The 10 days finally ended, and we let the pigeons fly. At first, they fluttered out the door and landed on the clubhouse roof, but then the mighty pigeons took off and shot upward like a squadron of fighter planes. We clapped and hollered as they dove and tumbled and rolled. The pigeons circled the block and landed back on the roof, and then one by one, they entered the clubhouse through the hatch above the window. Every day, we'd meet and watch the pigeons fly, but soon complaints started coming in from the neighbors. Those pigeons poop on my laundry, said Mrs. Crenshaw. Professor Stern said that the pigeons landed on his windowsills and peeked inside his house. I have no privacy anymore. Mrs. Turnipseed said that one of the pigeons flew inside her bathroom and landed on her tub. That bird acted like it owned the place. And Mrs. Gray was painting a watercolor of her garden when one of the pigeons flew by. It pooped all over the painting, ruining it beyond repair, she said. But by far the angriest neighbor was Mr. Turnipseed. His TV antenna became a favorite spot for the pigeons to gather. Every time those birds are up there, the screen is full of wavy lines, he fumed.
I just have to watch the TV.
You're gonna have to do something about those birds, said Dad. The way things are going, the neighbors are gonna stop talking to us, said Mom. Billy came up with an idea. His father, who was a big football fan, had an air horn that he blew during games. When the pigeons land somewhere we don't want them to, we'll just blast the horn and they'll leave, said Billy. The next day, Billy climbed over Mrs. Crenshaw's fence and blasted the horn. The sound was ear-splitting. The pigeons flew up in the air, hovered for a short time, and then landed back on the clothesline. Out of my backyard, mister, screamed Mrs. Crenshaw. Billy leaped over the fence and handed the air horn to Bobby. Next time, you do it, he said. Bobby handed it right back to him. Yeah, this isn't going to work. As the days went by, not only did the neighbors keep complaining, but we were starting to become bored. We spent most of our time scraping pigeon poop and listening to Mom and Dad remind us of our pigeon duties. When Bobby said, I think we should find another home for those pigeons, we all agreed. On Saturday, we set up a stand in front of our house offering free pigeons. Lots of cars drove by and some people honked and waved, but no one stopped. And then the answer came to us by accident. On our way to the park, we passed by Old St. Francis Church. Look, said Mike, tons of pigeons. And there's even a statue of a saint blessing them, said Allison. This is the perfect place to let our pigeons go, said Bobby. It's pigeon heaven, I added. But won't they just fly back to the clubhouse? Asked Craig. Are you kidding? Said Bobby. Once they get a taste of this place, they'll never want to leave. We went back to the clubhouse, we loaded the pigeons in some boxes and returned to the church. When we opened the boxes, our pigeons flew up to the church roof and started mixing with the other birds. Just then a window of the church flew open and a man yelled, What are you hooligans doing? Giving you more pigeons, said Andy. Well, I don't want the ones that are here, let alone yours, he said. I'm coming right down and we'll see what your parents have to say about all this. Ditch! Yelled Bobby, and we dropped the empty boxes and raced the entire way home. By the time we reached the clubhouse, we found all our pigeons waiting for us, and they had brought along some friends from the St. Francis Church. Hey, look, said Allison. One of the church birds has a band on its leg with the telephone number. When Bobby called the number, an older kid named Marvin answered the phone. He was happy we had found his missing pigeon, and we offered to take it to him. Marvin met us in his front yard and thanked us for returning his pigeons. "You sure like birds," I said. "Someday I'm going to be an ornithologist," he said. "That's a bird scientist." In his backyard, he had 2 big aviaries. One held canaries, and the other was full of pigeons. "About a month ago, I almost got a bunch of free pigeons from an allergic kid," he said. "But just before I got there, his mother gave them to somebody else." That day, Marvin got the pigeons he wanted, and we got our clubhouse back. The end.
That was funny.
It's a good one, right? It's a good one.